everybody, and welcome back for another episode of Spill the D and our first video episode. My name's Gina. I'm one of your hosts, joined here with my co-host Rick as well as Bruce. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. It's really weird to see it that people are going to be
I
seeing us, but
know.
I'm ready for it. What about you, Bruce?
I know. Yeah, I'm excited for this. I think this is a really good step forward. I'm looking forward to the new opportunities that going to video is going to bring. Especially like smooth beginnings and intros like we just had. So,
Yes.
but it's funny because Rick and Gina are in the same building but in different rooms, and after a little bit of tech difficulties, we're set up ready to roll for this first video podcast. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it is kind of weird being in different rooms. I'll be honest.
But once we get it figured out, we won't have to be in different rooms.
Yeah,
Right.
We were just having some tech issues, and the quickest way to solve it was kicking you out.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah. So eventually, you guys would be in the same room, be smooth. Tech just was working against us today. So, but to make up for that, we have some good topics to discuss.
Yeah, today we are talking about the Keys to the Kingdom tour. We're going to keep it as spoiler free as we can. I've done it, Bruce has done it, but Rick has not done it and wants to do it.
True.
So this is like the somewhat spoiler, not really a spoiler, Keys to the Kingdom tour overview, if that makes sense.
Yeah, details but not secrets.
Yeah, we're not going to give you the full what's going on, but like you're going to have an understanding of what the tour is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then of course, some Disney news.
Always.
Who's going first with the news?
Bruce.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah,
that's because I told you guys that my news story is dessert related.
Yep, and I'm ready to hear it.
You guys want me to go first?
Dessert always comes first. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, big dessert fan over here.
To be fair, like when Disney releases a lot of like food stories and the different culinary things that they're doing, when I saw this one, I automatically saved the photo and I said, this is going to be the news story that I talk about with this first video podcast. And it is the Monorail S'more Brownie over at Contempo Cafe at the Contemporary Resort. So
that
the
sounds
description.
So good.
I know.
Just the name. I'm hooked. I'm ready.
Well, I want to read you the description, and I'm going to tell you now that the picture is even better. A lot of times the picture, isn't as good as the description, but I'm telling you, this photo looks delicious. The description is, it's a fudgy brownie with a graham cracker crust topped with marshmallow creme and chocolate decor. It is like a thin layer, not a thin layer, a bottom layer of graham crust with a brownie with a melted marshmallow on top with a chocolate and marshmallow monorail on top. And so Gina, I'm going to send this picture over to you guys so you can put it on your Instagram. I'm going to put it on our Instagram. It looks amazing. So I'm looking forward to it. One piece of news I don't have though is actually when it's going to be available. Yes,
that's all right.
You have to go every day until it's there.
Yeah.
Dang it! I guess I got to go to Disney every day.
Building that anticipation, but I'll go back and look and see if I can find the release date to this new Monorail S'more Brownie. But I think it's going to be a hit. I'm excited for it, and I'll do a quick little review on our Instagram when I finally get my hands on one of these things.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it. I'm not a huge dessert person, but it sounds delicious. So
I make up for his lack of desserts. I could eat 1,000 brownies and 1,000 s'mores. So that's like, when you combine those two, I was hooked. The only thing that would have made it better was a scoop of ice cream on top.
I've been more into desserts recently, so.
Ever since your concussion. Wait, Bruce, this is so weird. Rick got a concussion.
I have to hear this.
He got a concussion and then wanted desserts all the time. Like, never wanted it before. Every single night that his head hurt, he wanted desserts. And since then, like, a good amount of nights a week, he's like, what are we having for dessert?
Now, Rick, let me ask you, if you say you're not like a dessert person, what about when you're on vacation at Disney? Does that go out the window and you're trying everything? Or are you able to like keep that, like you're still not into desserts even when you're there on vacation?
Honestly, I'm not like super into them still. I'm 100% more of a savory over sweet person. So most of the time I prioritize getting the savory option, and then if I have room or craving for the sweet option, then I'll get that.
I feel like you're more willing to take a bite in Disney. Like if I offer
Yeah,
you a bite of something at home, you don't really care. But in Disney, if I offer you a bite of a dessert, you take it.
that's fair.
So like more desserts in that aspect.
Yeah,
And Gina, you're the opposite. You're into desserts.
all
Oh yeah.
desserts.
All desserts, all food. I don't judge. Savory,
Nice.
sweet, I'll take any of it. But desserts definitely. Anything chocolate. The only thing I'm picky about with desserts, I don't like nuts in my desserts. I like nuts by
Okay.
themselves, but I don't like them mixed in my food, and I think they destroy
That's
desserts.
fair. That's fair. Do you have a favorite dessert at the Disney parks?
Ooh, I'm all about one of the sundaes from the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor.
Ah, okay.
Like I
Okay.
can't go into Magic Kingdom without getting an ice cream sundae before I leave.
Hey, and Rick, for you, do you have a favorite savory dish that you like at the Disney parks?
Darn, because I had a sweet option locked up.
No, wait, he actually has a favorite dessert.
Okay, go to dessert.
Well, my favorite, like, I guess it's kind of a dessert, is the cinnamon roll. But if
Sweet
we're just
treat.
talking like, yeah, if we're just talking like regular dessert though, one of my all-time like favorite desserts is a Klondike bar. So
Okay.
the Mickey ice cream bars are like my go-to if I'm gonna get ice cream or anything while I'm in Disney, because it's as close to a Klondike bar as you can get.
Yeah, but
That
it's
makes
only
sense.
50 cents cheaper than a full ice cream sundae. So why wouldn't you go get a full ice cream sundae?
Because I don't need that much. I just need the flavor. I don't need all the ice cream. I was struggling during the kitchen sink.
Ooh.
That was it
How
was
many people were attempting that with you?
It depends on who you ask. So we started out with 5 of us, but like my brother conveniently had to go to the bathroom. Like I felt like we were
Because of the
8.
kitchen sink.
I guess so. I felt like we were 8 years old again, and my mom said to like clean up, so he had to go to the bathroom. Like he was gone like the entire time. And then my sister-in-law's not a big eater, so she didn't eat that much. So it turned into just like me, Rick, and my sister. And then Rick quit, and it was just me and my sister. And she's lactose intolerant, but she did it.
Wow, that's dedication.
It was an
So
experience.
kind of 3, kind of 2, kind of 3, depending on who you ask. But we did it. We finished it. When my brother
Don't need to
came
do it
back
again.
from the bathroom, the server handed him a straw and was like, "Go ahead, you do the cleanup now." And Bruce,
What?
what's your favorite Disney dessert?
Oh, every time I'm in the Magic Kingdom, I get a Dole Whip. I don't know if they're my favorite, but it is what I gravitate towards while I'm there. And I also always bring a popcorn bucket, so it's probably popcorn, or a Dole Whip. So just basic. Yeah.
That's fair. I like the Dole Whip pineapple upside down cake.
Mm.
Ooh, that
Dole
one's
Whip,
good.
if I'm doing it, or the orange float Dole Whip. I never do just a plain Dole Whip.
Okay. All right. I like to do the Dole Whip, pineapple Dole Whip with a swirl with vanilla,
Okay.
or coconut. I'm a big coconut Dole Whip fan.
Not a fan.
Don't like coconut.
Don't like the
Oh
coconut.
man. All right. Next time we're there, we're gonna try them.
Coconut and nuts. Ruined dessert.
What news stories do you guys have?
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead. Tell the world
I mean, the world already knows because it's the biggest news story of recent memory, but
of our
so
generation.
of our generation. So for those that are not aware, Disney paired up with Ravensburger to come out with a trading card game very similar for those that might have heard of Magic the Gathering, Pokemon trading card game, things like that. And it's called Lorcana, and it comes out on Friday. So I'm super excited about that. I don't know if anybody listening is as excited as I am. It might be kind of hard to be as excited as I am about it, but if you are, let me know and we can talk about it, because I have only wanted to talk about it for like 2 weeks, and I finally got the chance now because it comes out this week.
Now, Rick, you said it's like. Did you compare it to Magic the Gathering? Is that what you
Yes.
said? Okay. Is the gameplay similar to that? I have no reference for those card games. So
Yes,
explain to me like how that works a little bit.
It's very similar. So you have a deck of a certain amount of cards. The Disney ones obviously are all Disney characters, and it's basically you're trying to quest to gather a certain amount of lore, and the first person to so many lore counters wins. Is
What
how
is lore?
I honestly don't really know. It's just how they keep track of your score in the game. But yeah, for those that don't know, you might be your first time listener. I'm a huge nerd, so I do play Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. So this is right up my alley, and I'm really excited about it.
Nice. Nice. You said that's this week?
Yes, it comes out on Friday.
Nice. And
It's
Gina,
got
are
a
you?
countdown going for months. But I know nothing about this. I know only what he's told me. But you said it was similar to that one game we played, Villainous.
It is somewhat similar to Villainous, a little bit different, but close enough.
Okay, so if you like Villainous, you could end up liking this game.
You could potentially like it. I'm a big fan. Again, if you're not a regular listener, I'm a big fan of art, and I think the art on these cards that they came out with is amazing, and I'm mostly excited to collect the different arts that they have.
The Hades is really cool.
I think all of them are really
Hades
cool. I'm really
and
excited.
Stitch, they were the ones that and the Aladdin card. He was showing me
Yeah.
all these the other night. Those were the ones that I thought were really cool. They're like the foil ones, right? They're the more expensive ones.
Yeah, the enchanted rares are the ones that are a little bit more expensive. If you haven't heard about it and you're interested, maybe just look up Disney Lorcana and it'll come up with everything that you would need to know about it. But yeah, if you're into trading card games or just regular board games, even might be something you'd like.
Can you play virtually? Can listeners play with you? You need to be in person.
As far as I know, there's nothing you can play virtually yet.
Yeah.
There's like different apps that people use to play card games with each other, but I don't know of any that are like digital yet.
Okay. Just wondering. That's cool.
They might come out with it eventually. I don't know.
I'm excited for you. Sounds fun.
Thank you.
Okay, my news also exciting. Not as exciting as Lorcana or dessert. Sorry, guys. But the
Worst
news
for
that
last.
I brought, yeah, we saved the worst for last. So Disney Cruise Line coming out with another new ship. As we know, we've talked about this in the past. It's going to be called the Disney Treasure. And they're doing a virtual unveiling event. So on August 30th with Disney Parks blog, they're going to do a virtual unveiling where you're going to get to see the ship and see what adventure awaits on board Disney's newest ship.
I'm excited.
I'm excited as well.
This is the one
I
with
think it's cool.
Peter Pan and Captain Hook on the front?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited. Disney keeps up in the game with each new ship and each new class of ships, and I've sailed quite a bit on the Disney Dream, but I was recently on the Wish, and just from a theme standpoint, I'm excited. I'm incredibly excited to see the theme put into practice as they build these ships and as they're decorated. So I'm looking forward to it. Gina, I think I saw that the video is going to be near 30 minutes. I may be wrong. I only saw the headline at a glance, but I mean, that could be really detailed.
I mean, if they're going to show the whole ship, they're going to need a lot of time. These new ships just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I know that like Icon of the Seas from Royal Caribbean is I think their inaugural sailing's in January. And that ship is just so big.
It's massive.
Yeah, I
And
think
they have an even bigger one coming out after that.
Yeah.
Like already
This
prepared?
Icon has a water park on top. So it's just amazing stuff. So
I love the pictures when people put them online where it's like those ships compared to the Titanic
I know.
and how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, I agree.
The ships are insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. A lot of fun.
They're a lot of fun. Did you like the Wish more than the Dream?
You know what? Like the Dream is nostalgic for me. So like, subjectively, I don't know, but objectively, like the dining areas on the Wish were just stunning. So that looked terrific. I would say one of the things that I would take the Dream over the Wish is like the entrance or like the lobby, the atrium area. I like better on the Dream than I do the Wish. But as for most everything else, the Wish is a bit of an upgrade. But for me, it was the dining locations and the dining locations on the Wish that I think just takes it to another level.
Gotcha.
So
Based off of the photos of the atrium for the treasure, I think this one's gonna beat out the other ones.
it could, yeah.
It
Just
looks
from
very
the
nice.
photos. Rick and I, Bruce, the one episode, I wish I remembered what number episode it was. We were trying to describe this atrium, and I think we were so in shock, we just kept saying blue. We were like, it's so blue. The colors are blue.
It's like blue and gold, right?
Yeah. It's blue. It's blue and gold.
It's blue. I mean, there's
Very
really
blue.
no other way to put it.
It is blue. It is dark, and I'll say the atrium on the Wish, it is stark white. Everything is white and Cinderella themed. So this is almost like, I don't want to say the complete opposite, but this is vastly different than the Wish. So I am excited to see it.
Much more masculine look. That's how, if you put them next to each other, that's the vibe I get. One is more like the adventure, treasure hunting, and the other one is very much the delicate, fairy tale look.
I like treasure hunting.
I like treasure hunting too.
The statue of Aladdin and Jasmine in the photo is really cool. So
Enough to get me on a boat.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I am too. I am very excited. I'm excited to see it in this 30-minute video and then convince Rick that we need to go see it in person.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be so hard to get Rick on a cruise.
Yeah.
But if you would like to book your cruise, this is your reminder that we are the official podcast of 407 and Beyond Vacation Co. And we are always going to recommend that you contact them for booking all of your Disney, Universal Orlando, and anywhere else adventures. 407 and Beyond is going to book family vacations. It doesn't cost any extra to book with them. Their services are 100% free. All you have to do is show up, have fun, and create those family memories. And you can start by getting your free no obligation quote at www.407vacations.com. And as always, we're going to post that in the show notes for you. Go ahead and click that link. All right. Who's ready to talk about Keys to the Kingdom?
I'm ready to hear about it. Hopefully
Rick.
too much doesn't get spoiled for me.
I'm going to discuss our experience on it, and where the tour takes you, but that information is online when you go to purchase the tour. So but anything that's not online or about the personal experience of doing it, I will leave out of today's episode.
I have some tips that I got together too, based off of my experience and from different blogs I read with other people's experiences. But I also think, Rick, where you're really going to come in handy here is, as someone who hasn't done it, you can say, yo, Gina, yo, Bruce, shut up. You're about to ruin it for the listener. Do you know what I mean? So that
Maybe.
we are keeping it. You could be like, wait, no, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. And that can stop us from going too deep into spoilers. Obviously, if someone knows nothing about it, they're going to learn a lot today, but not to the extent that you will if you go and you do the Keys to the Kingdom tour.
I'm curious as well too, Gina, if while Bruce is telling us about his experience, if you want to chime in and say what might have been different about yours, because you did the cast member one that's a little bit shortened, right?
It's a little bit shortened, and I believe, if I am correct, it has changed since I've done it. So I think Bruce actually might have done a little bit differently than what I did, because I did mine back in 2019.
Gotcha.
And Bruce, this was your first time doing it, right?
It was my first time. It was actually a birthday gift
Nice.
that we had booked these tickets, and we just went a couple of weeks ago. So pretty recently, and, the most recent version of the tour. So
perfect. Do you want to share with the listeners what exactly the Keys to the Kingdom is?
Yeah, so just some background on the tour itself and some information about it. It is a 5-hour tour. Rick, spoiler. And it is, you are on your feet for a good majority of that 5 hours. So you will have a half-hour lunch built in. but you are on your feet for 4.5 hours. So the first thing I'm going to say is wear your walking shoes. Be prepared to be on your feet because you are walking or standing throughout the duration of the tour. Right now, Keys of the Kingdom tour is $114 per person plus tax. And it starts in the mornings at the Magic Kingdom. So tours begin at 8:30, or 9 o'clock. And Gina, I don't know if this is the same for you, but the tour meets at the Town Square Theater right there at the beginning of Main Street. So right where you're going into Tony's restaurant, you go in there to the theater, and that's where you congregate for the beginning of the tour, where you're going to order your lunch. Lunch right now on the tour is at Pecos Bill's. And so you order your lunch there, you'll meet your tour guide, you'll get your listening device, and a little name tag that you will use to go backstage a little bit.
Yeah, and then something that I want to touch on with that, it also goes at 9:30. There's 4 times that leave every day, but a lot of days the park doesn't even open until 9. So one thing to consider when you're doing the Keys to the Kingdom tour, especially if you're staying on property, is your transportation to get to the park. If you have the 8 o'clock time slot and maybe resort guests don't even get in until 8:30, buses might not start until 7:30, and you should really be there 15 minutes before. So while a bus might get you there on time, you might maybe need to Uber or take a Lyft, which is going to drop you directly at the gate if you're not staying at one of the Magic Kingdom resorts. So that's something to consider when you're picking which time you want to do and how you're going to get to the Keys to the Kingdom tour. Yes, Rick.
Important question. Bruce, you said lunch is at Pecos Bill. Is that included in the price, or is that something extra?
It is included, yes.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Asking the real question.
Yeah,
I had Pecos Bill when
question.
we were there the other week, and it was delicious.
Good.
Which
Yeah,
I don't know if we've actually said yet. This is a tour of Magic Kingdom. You're getting a backstage tour of Magic Kingdom and of
Keys to the Kingdom.
Keys to the Kingdom. It is a full. It's a historic tour of Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all that said, guests do need to be 16 years of age or older and have an ID at check-in. Theme park admission is required and not included in the price of the tour. And as of right now, you got to make your park pass reservations for Magic Kingdom. Lunch is included in the tour, as Rick pointed out, and there is a discount for annual pass holders and DVC members of up to 15% off on the tour. So that's nice. As well. But yeah, you start by meeting your tour guide. They give you a bottle of water, order lunch, all that stuff over at the Town Square Theater. And that is where the tour begins. So the first hour or so, you are walking around Town Square, Main Street, USA, the train station, and Gina, for my experience, a couple weeks ago, the tour guide's giving details and secrets, design, architectural details on how they built some of these things, some of the techniques that they used, and then we kind of extensively went through the windows that were dedicated to the Imagineers who helped build either the Magic Kingdom or had a large role in Disney parks, and so all that stuff was pretty interesting, and learning that behind the scenes stuff. So did they do that in your tour as well?
Yeah, for the most part, I think that's one of the cool parts about the tour is that every tour guide has their different things that they really like and that they enjoy talking about. So we got a lot about the history of Main Street and why they did things the way that they did. And then as far as the windows, she picked her few favorite windows and explained those pretty in depth as to why those Imagineers had the titles that they did on the windows.
Yeah, and so we had a lot of talk about Walt and his vision, and then of course he passed away before the opening of Magic Kingdom in 1971. So there was a lot of discussion about the role that Roy Disney played in taking over and ensuring that the park was complete for park open. And so we walked down Main Street. We stopped over on the side street off of Main Street and had a discussion more about some of those windows in the back corner, which was really interesting. And then we made our way to the hub. And there she talked a little bit about the hub and spoke design of the park and people being able to be in the middle, looking at the different lands, things that are intriguing. And so one of the first things that she talked about is like having us look over at Tomorrowland, and you see Astro Orbiter, and you see some of the attractions down there. But if you look over at Adventureland, you can't see it because it's obscured by trees, and so it takes the park guest onto this adventure that you have to walk through the trees and into Adventureland. You don't even see the Adventureland sign until you are underneath it or getting near it, which is unlike some of the other destinations or other lands in the park. So she really went into detail on some of that design components and how the park was laid out and how everything was designed for a specific purpose and reason. So
a lot of detail about the foliage when I did it.
Yes.
Which I
a
tell
lot of details
anyone
on the
who's
plants.
in Magic Kingdom with me. I'm like, look at those plants and explain it all.
So we walked into Adventureland from the hub, and she pointed out that those plants, they changed right past the hub. Over where like Crystal Palace is, they start changing. They're much thicker. Makes you really feel like you're in the jungle. And that is a design aspect that's carried throughout the entire park.
Made me look for it everywhere I went. I was like, look
Yeah,
at the
that was
here.
one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite things that Gina told me from when she did it was the way that they transitioned from land to land, because it's one of those things that you also notice it in places like the Star Wars land and Hollywood Studios. Like you don't really realize the transition is happening, and then when you eventually just stop and take a look at it, you're like, oh wow, this is like a really like smooth transition, and they did a really good job with it. And Adventureland is definitely the best place, in my opinion, to see that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Like turning out of Galaxy's Edge and then seeing a 25-foot Buzz Lightyear.
You know what, though? I'm convinced they picked Buzz Lightyear to go there because space. They're not going to put Woody next to Galaxy's Edge.
It is related.
If you have to see something, you might as well see the Space Ranger.
So in Adventureland, we took our first bathroom break there at the bathrooms that connect into Frontierland.
Important.
Very important. Very. Yes. And then she actually took us on the Jungle Cruise. And what was really neat about this was we didn't wait in the queue. She took us actually the attraction exit, and it was our tour guide who was also our skipper for the ride. And what was neat about that was instead of jokes, although she did tell a few jokes and they were funny, she actually was giving us some behind the scene details on how some of the animatronics work, the purpose of the waterfall. I won't spoil that one. Some of the design aspects in the cave. And so that was really fun, actually being on an attraction, but hearing the design setup, behind the scenes of the animatronics and the attraction itself while you're riding it, because we can watch those shows on Disney Plus and get all that information and stuff like that. But it's really cool to be on the attraction, hearing it live in person, getting to experience it.
So that's the first major difference between your tour and my tour. I did not ride Jungle Cruise. I actually rode Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
So I think that has since been changed, and I think the new official ride that you ride is Jungle Cruise. What we did was same thing. We walked in. They might have taken us through the Fast Pass line at the time. I guess Lightning Lane now, and we were on our own boat, and we had kept our headphones on. And she would randomly turn hers on and talk about certain areas. So different parts of the ride, we were just sitting, and then other parts, she would talk and explain why they did what they did, what animatronics were what, and what parts like Walt had a hand in, and things like that. But I did not get to do Jungle Cruise, which stinks. I would have loved Jungle Cruise, but it's okay because getting the behind the scenes of Pirates was also very cool.
That is cool. Rick, any questions or details that you want on those aspects?
Well, Bruce, you said about how they mentioned the waterfall, which we're not spoiling. Gina,
Mhm.
did they say anything like what areas in Pirates did they give you like extra information on? I'm just curious.
Um, it was a lot about, like Bruce said, with like the animatronics, giving more
Okay.
detail on those. They did a little bit of history, and then I'm trying to think. She did mention, I believe, when things were changed. So she said about like how the auction scene was newer.
Yeah.
Um, most things that I think they might have switched it because it probably was most things that Disney people know. People who are going to want to do the
Yeah.
tour are going to know a lot of these facts. But she did explain the drop, what that was supposed to like signify, and different things like
Huh?
that.
So, Gina, I'm going to skip ahead by about 30 minutes of the tour here because when we went backstage, we saw the building that Pirates is housed in, and we walked over the drop in Pirates, which is there
Mm-hmm.
because of the infrastructure with the railroad out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's cool that you actually rode it. And went down the water or down the drop in the attraction, and then we saw it from the outside of the building. So, a couple different perspectives.
Yeah, definitely. And did she, before she took us on it, she also took us into Tortuga Tavern and talked to us about it. Did you guys get that
Yes,
aspect of
we
it?
did. We
Okay.
did, which was most welcome because it was great information, but we probably sat there for like 15 minutes and we had air conditioning and fans blowing on us because it was really hot.
Yeah. It's
So
like I
that
said,
is
it's
like
a
a
lot of
great,
walking.
it's a ton of walking.
The heat.
And if you do it in the summer, like we did, it's a little toasty. So that break was welcomed, and it kind of gave us the energy to finish out the morning.
Now, Bruce, how many people did you have in your tour?
We were probably around 15 people.
Okay, I know on average they keep it under 20, but it is usually about 15 to 20.
Yeah. So you know what? And honestly, like you could tell that we were in a group. But I never once felt like there was too many people in our group, or that if I had if somebody had a question, that they couldn't ask because there were so many people. And so I felt like we had good interaction with our tour guide, and that 15 people was not too many. So.
Yes, perfect.
So after Tortuga Tavern and getting that air conditioning, getting rejuvenated a little bit, we did go backstage where the parade route starts. And so, Jan, I don't know if you did this. We went back and saw the parade floats out back.
That's cool.
But yeah, Festival of Fantasy, the Halloween, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, Boot to You parade floats. We're getting prepped, and so that was really cool to be able to see that.
My favorite one to see is not even a float. It's how the fairy godmothers move. Did you see those?
You know what? I don't remember that. So you're gonna,
Oh.
yeah, you're gonna
Oh.
have to remind me.
It was a little mini spoiler for anyone who doesn't want to know. Fast forward a few seconds right now. They're basically on like hoverboards, like the kind where you just lean and it moves forwards, but it like hooks around their waist and their dress goes over it.
Cool.
So we got to
Cool.
see those lined up, and I really remember it, which makes me think someone might have been on it at the time, like either practicing or I don't know what they were
Mm.
doing. But yeah, they were like hoverboards, and hoverboards were not big yet when I did it, so it was very
Mm.
very cool to see.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That is cool. We did not see that. She did mention that performers, go back there and practice, and they spend hours and hours of practice. But it would have been great to see it in action like you did. We then made our way from backstage. We walked around the backside of Pirates. We saw the garbage incinerator. They have a great trash
Ooh.
system throughout the Magic Kingdom that apparently is a Swiss or Finnish model that vacuums trash into one big unit. That is out back in that direction. And so they, some really cool things back there. And then we made our way back around, and we had lunch at Pecos Bill's. Now, as the tours are staggered in the morning between 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, so are the lunches. And so some lunches are going to start earlier than others. I think ours started at 11:30. And because you already gave your order at check-in, they have that lunch ready for you with a little name tag at the table. And so we sat down and had our lunch, and it was a half hour. Again, got food and air conditioning, which set us up for a good afternoon. So, yeah, and we had our own private room in Pecos Bills. So
Nice.
That's cool.
that's nice too. Yeah.
What'd you get to eat?
Good question. I think I had the fajita platter, I believe.
Mm,
So,
Ooh,
yes.
love
very
fajitas.
nice. You get a drink with
Uh,
that too, right?
oh, I did. You know, I had a Diet Coke.
Love it.
So,
See, but that alone, if you were in the park, would be almost $20 for a meal and a soda. So if you like subtract that from your tour price, if you need to mentally justify it a little bit, now your tour is less than $100.
There you
that's
go.
true. Yeah,
So
there you go.
just saying.
Before tax.
Well, it comes out to like 122 after tax. So like now your tour is 100.
Okay, we'll try and find some other ways to get it sub 100.
Yeah, we'll keep going. I can keep coming up with ways to make it cheaper, guys. Don't worry. Well, also
The water bottle. The water bottle's $6.
Oh yeah, you said they
You
give you
do
a
get a
water when
water
you
at the
started,
beginning.
right?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Wow, way to round up
Value,
that for
just-
$6.
yeah.
Come on. Well, and we won't say what it is, but while you're at Pecos Bill, they also gave you a small gift, which was probably
New
worth
gift.
about 10 to 15 in Disney prices.
Ooh,
So,
a small gift. I want to know now.
oh, sorry, that one I won't spoil.
Well, that one you can tell me once we're done.
No, you're gonna have to take the tour, Rick.
Sorry, you gotta take the tour. If you need someone to go with you, I volunteer as tribute.
Uh, so yes, Gina's right. You do get a little gift. It is at lunch that they put on the table. So and that was nice. After lunch at Pecos Bills and the delicious fajitas and Diet Coke. The tour takes you over to Liberty Square. Well, we stopped in there. We stopped over by the riverboat. In that awning, the entrance to the boat, we kind of congregated there in the corner for a little bit. And she actually talked a lot about the Haunted Mansion. Some of the tricks going on in the Haunted Mansion, what the architecture is based off of, which is pretty cool because I know Magical Meg was visiting the real Haunted Mansion or the real building home that the attraction is based off of.
It's only a few hours from us.
It is.
Yeah.
I felt
Now,
like
have you guys been?
Not to the specific house. I've been to the area though.
Okay.
I've been to the area growing up, but I'd like to go see the actual house at some point. We were actually looking into going there this fall, and that would totally be on my list of things to do while we're there. I felt like a celebrity taking this tour when she was like, "Is anyone here from Pennsylvania?" And I was like, "That's me. I'm from Pennsylvania." And then she was like, "Do you know Jim Thorpe?" And I was like, "Yes. I went to school near
Do
there.
I know Jim?
Do I know Jim Thorpe?" Turns out
We graduated together.
Turns out my school was like 45 minutes from there. It wasn't as close as I thought, but still, I was like, yeah, I know Jim Thorpe. But that is where this isn't a spoiler. We've talked about this before on the podcast. The mansion is based off of a mansion in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
for anyone listening who's confused, because I just got excited about being from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Two things real quick. One, you said you went to the riverboat. I'm excited to hear if they said anything about that because I rode that for the first time this past trip. And two, did you guys just skip over Frontierland completely, or did you go back to it?
Yeah, good questions. To answer the first question about the riverboat, no, not really.
Okay.
No discussion on the riverboat, but congratulations on riding for the first time. I hope you liked it.
It was a good time.
It is pretty cool, and I've been spending more time over at Tom Sawyer Island recently. I feel like not a whole lot of people go out there, and so if you're looking kind of for like not necessarily quiet, but just like a little bit of a secluded place to sit down, Aunt Polly's there. No one is sitting at those tables like
Never.
ever. So I do recommend heading out there.
When they're actually open, the food's good.
Yeah. Well, when was the last time Aunt Polly's was open?
It's usually just like big holiday, like busy
Yeah.
times of year. When I got it while it was open, it was when I was living there, and it was like around Christmas time.
Okay.
Like busy.
So it's been a little bit.
Been a little
A
bit.
little while. Yeah. the second question about Frontierland, no, we did not circle back to Frontierland. She talked a little bit about Country Bear Jamborees as we passed, and it was kind of funny because a couple of them were out dancing with guests and kind of gave us high fives as we walked by, almost as if that was planned. But we didn't spend much time. But what was cool was when we were in Frontierland to see the progress of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, because they have the big water tower, they have the crown on top of it, and so there's definitely progress going on there at the old Splash Mountain, now Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So that was cool. But as for like facts on Frontierland, I don't recall her giving any at that point. But she did say that for like 20 yards back in Frontierland is a dead spot for the microphones that they use, and so actually there was like a little stretch where it was silent, and so maybe that was why there was a lack of detail there. So
Kind of cool though.
Gotcha. I was mostly curious about the Tiana's Bayou Adventure, if they had showed you anything or said anything about the progress on that.
yeah, we did get to ride it.
Oh, nice. How is it?
Yeah, I wish.
They actually got to touch the Tiana animatronic.
fully stripped Splash Mountain / Tiana's Bayou Adventure, just no animatronics.
just scaffolding. No water either.
Wow, what a good
Just a
time.
roller coaster.
It was actually a bring your own water. They had to like dump those water bottles from the morning on it and then take it down.
Oh man, that'd be bumpy.
This is the best $120 I've ever spent.
Yeah, people would spend it to be able to go check out Tiana's mid
yeah.
progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd spend it, Bruce. You'd be there so quick.
Yeah, that's true. I have to tell you, I'm super excited for that attraction. Like incredibly excited. I mean, we could go down a tangent here, Gina, about how I think this is long overdue. I think Tiana needs to be in the parks more, and so I'm pretty excited about this. And so, if someone said you can get an early viewing of it for $120, I think I'd be first in line.
I think you would too. I'm convinced.
So carrying on from the tour, we then rode the Haunted Mansion. So we got to see some of the effects that the tour guide had shared with us. However, unlike the Jungle Cruise, in which she rode with us and told us some of these details as we were riding the ride, she couldn't do that in the Haunted Mansion because, of course, it's quiet in there and that would be disruptive. So she told us all of the fun details to look at while we rode, and then we went in the back entrance again and got on to some dune buggies and was able to ride the attraction and kind of see what all the details, including like Pepper's ghost. I know that's a pretty common detail. I know it's even shared in Disney Plus series, and so so that was cool. That was a lot of fun. But then after the Haunted Mansion, well, hold on. Before I move on, Gina, did you ride another attraction in your tour other than Pirates?
We did Pirates and Haunted Mansion, and it was the same thing. She told us just about everything before we got on, and then nothing while we were riding it. I do feel like she turned her mic on like twice to just like kind of whisper something, and then it went back to the ride.
Nice.
But that was it, and we stood in front of Columbia Harbor House, and she showed us the Pepper's ghost, how it worked with the window of Columbia Harbor House.
Cool.
That's the one thing I really remember, because we were standing there and then she was like, okay, here's what I want you guys to do. We got to like see it using our own bodies, which was really cool.
What is that?
Pepper's ghost is the trick that they use on Haunted Mansion, Tower of Terror. They use it where, you know, when you're looking in the window, like out a window, you see a reflection of something also in the room at like a different angle.
Yeah.
So that is how they make some things appear on rides when they're not actually there. So like the ballroom.
Are you talking about the dining room scene?
Yeah. So that is using the Pepper's ghost magic trick, I guess. That's the way that they do it. And that's the one thing that you learn while you're doing the tour. That was a really big spoiler that I just said, but we've spoiled that before on here, so I wasn't super worried. I just double checked before I said it. We did do a whole episode about the history of Haunted Mansion. So I know for a fact we've spoiled that one before. And like Bruce said, if you ever watched it on Disney Plus, they tell you 1,000 times exactly how it's done.
Yeah, in your defense, Pepper's Ghost technique is pretty common,
Hmm.
and it's pretty well known that they use it in the Haunted Mansion. So I think we're still spoiler free,
Yeah,
keeping that record clean.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
Enough
I think you're
spoiler
doing
free
well, pretty
enough,
well so far.
right? I feel like we're doing pretty good, not
trying to
spoiling
keep it
too
real high
much.
level. Yeah, we need one of those signs that they have at work, like 0 days since the last workplace accident, but we're just going to change it to spoiler.
0 days, 0 minutes since the spoiler.
So we got off of the Haunted Mansion. We walked through Fantasyland, like between Peter Pan, and It's a Small World, and we congregated in front of PhilharMagic. And there she talked a little bit more, and we at that point went into the utilidors. And that was going to be the utilidor portion of the tour, which for a lot of guests taking this tour, this is a big reason why they booked the tour. They
This is
want to
what
see
they're
the
waiting
utilidors.
for.
Yes, and for I'm not going to discuss what's down there, but what it is it's where the employees work. How they get around the park. Magic Kingdom is not built on ground level; it's one level up, and so offices and things of that nature, and walkways to the different lands from the hub and spoke setup that we talked about earlier. That the park is designed in. This is how employees get from point A to point B, so that you don't see somebody who's working Frontierland walking through Adventureland, and that would take the guest out of the sensation that they're in the land that they're currently in. And so we were down in the utilidors for over an hour. So we got a tour, we walked around. She shared some details of the inner workings, what was going on down there, who was doing what, where certain tunnels led to. And I will say it is like an entire working city down below, with food and costumes and everything else. So I was really impressed. I imagine, Gina, that they took you down there on your tour years ago as well.
They did, and I remember I had already been down there when I did my traditions, which is your when you're a Disney cast member, whether or not you work at Magic Kingdom, they do take you down there so you can see it, and that's part of your onboarding class. So I had been down there once, but they definitely, with the tour, they take you more on the historic route of it. They took us down different hallways with different offices, and we saw much different things than I did with my traditions class.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I went with my wife Elizabeth, who was in the college program as well. So it was particularly fun for her to be like, "Hey, that's where I used to clock in and out, and that's where I
Mhm.
used to drop off laundry
I'm
and all that
back.
stuff." Yeah, exactly.
What did
So
she do in
it was a
her
lot of
for her
fun.
college program?
She was in food service at the Magic Kingdom. She worked Mrs. Potts and the little stand over by teacups.
Okay.
I can't think of the name of it
The
off the top of my
Cheshire
head, but
Cafe.
yeah. I think before it was
It's
something
called
before
something
that.
else, probably.
I
Yeah,
think. Yeah, I
they
can't
change
remember.
their names all the time in Disney.
She won't like me saying this, but it has been a while, so the names have changed. Um, but it was particularly fun for her to be back. So exciting for me to see it for the first time, and fun for her to be able to point out some of the things that she experienced when she was working. So similar to you, Gina. Now, Rick, do you have any like conceptions or ideas of what would be in the utilidors, or anything that would make you excited about going down there?
I would love to go down there. It sounds like something that I would find extremely interesting.
It
However,
is.
part of me does picture like in the movies when there's like a secret like base that you're not supposed to know about and people are doing like all this like stuff that they probably shouldn't be, and like
You know
pushing
the
like carts around with like costumes and stuff in it. Like I don't know, like it just like it has a little eerie vibe to me because they hide it so well,
you know the
you know?
Russians in Stranger Things when they're like
That's
below
what
the
I picture.
mall? It's
That's
actually
what I picture.
exactly like that.
Okay, because
That's what it's modeled after.
Yeah,
it's
it's modeled
exactly what
after.
my mind goes towards.
It's exactly that.
Okay,
If
gotcha.
that's what you're picturing, nailed it.
100%, 100%
Kind of
what I'm
like a mix
picturing.
of that and like Shrek 2, like the factory at Shrek 2 in Shrek 2, you know?
Working
What a
harder, hardly
reference.
working, eh, Mac?
We don't even have dental.
They don't even have sense.
So it's kind of a mix of those two. If you can picture that, you got it.
Oh, it's there. It's in there.
Perfect. Perfect.
Clear picture now. Yeah.
I basically have been there at this point.
Now you don't have to pay for the tour. You're welcome,
Yeah.
guys.
Now you've gotten 100% that value. The cost is 0 for you now.
Wonderful.
Happy to help.
After the utilidors, we finished the tour back up at Main Street USA. We took that little walking path next to Tomorrowland Terrace that you use for crowd overflow for like parties, or is the first stop for candy for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. We finished there, walked back on Main Street USA, and that concluded the 5-hour tour. And you know it. I'm just gonna say this again after that description of the tour. 5 hours is not like a ton of time, but like it is a very thorough tour. You feel like you get the value out of it. It does go quickly. And if you're not used to being on your feet for that long, at least like walking, shuffling, or standing, then you just need to be prepared for that. And so wear some comfortable shoes. There are some breaks built in, which she did a fantastic job with. But just be aware of that. So especially if it's hot, like because we did it at the end of July, so
it's a hot time.
warm. Yeah.
Yeah, when I did it, like I said, it was a modified version. I did the cast member version where it was offered to us, and mine was only about 3 hours, and it still was extremely thorough. One of the main things they cut out was the lunch because that saved 30 minutes, and they weren't feeding us when it was a free tour.
Mhm.
But I felt like one of the biggest surprises to me, which again, I don't find it to be too big of a spoiler, so I feel like I can say it. When you look up to the Keys to the Kingdom tour, it tells you how it's the history and how it's so much about Walt Disney. I felt like I learned so much about Roy Disney that day. Like
Interesting.
it was so much about him more than it was about Walt. When it starts out, it's about Walt, but by the end of it, you're like, Roy did this, and you're learning all about Roy Disney, which I think is awesome.
Can you kind of explain how without spoiling anything?
Well, Walt died before Walt Disney World actually was finished, so Roy had to
Yeah.
tour for so much of it. So they kind of like give him his credit. Like they give him the credit
Okay.
that he has missed out on for all of these years. And they're like, hey, this thing that you love, this is because of Roy. And a big
Gotcha.
part of the utilidors, actually, a whole section of the tour, I feel like they talked about Roy for like 20 minutes, like just talking
Okay.
about him. So it's a lot more about what he did with Walt Disney World. And I imagine if you went to a Disneyland version of this, you would probably learn a lot more about what Walt did, but it is more
Yeah.
about what Roy did after Walt died.
That's pretty cool.
It was.
Yeah, Gina, that was 100% the experience that we had as well. A lot about Roy. They had a little wall dedicated to him in the utilidors. So yeah, a lot of the tour started when we were on Main Street at the train station about Walt, and then it transitioned to Roy, and I kind of felt it stayed on Roy the entire tour.
Which I thought was awesome because you have these people, like I said, people who are doing this tour. It's not just someone going on a Disney vacation who goes once every 5 years and is like, cool, let me just take my kids. Like these are people who are diehard Disney fans who want to learn this. So a lot of them do already know so much about Disney because they get bored and they turn on podcasts or YouTube videos. So I feel like really shining that light on Roy is a way to tell them like, hey, here's something you don't know, because not many people are looking up Roy Disney when they're bored,
Well, the park's not named after him, so.
Well, that was because of him. He picked the name.
That's true.
See, you learn something new every day.
There you go.
So, Ric, from that description, is there anything that you've would have liked to have heard was included that wasn't, given that you haven't done it before? Is there something you're like, oh, I kind of wish I had heard you said that you did this?
Well, again, Frontierland kind of skipped over maybe a little bit there. Another one that sounds like you guys kind of skipped over is Tomorrowland, which maybe
we didn't even do Tomorrowland.
Yeah, which I feel like there could be some interesting stuff there. But yeah, mostly just the lands. It sounds like they are pretty all encompassing as far as everything that you guys did see. But those two lands, I think there could be a lot of interesting stuff going along with it, especially doing all the research that we did a few weeks ago for the Big Thunder Mountain Distery episode. Like, I feel like there's a lot more that there is probably to tell about that, and it would be cool. It would have been cool. Not that you would have said anything on here, but it would be cool to know that they were going to go into a little more depth with some of the other attractions like that.
Fair. You do have to wonder if they would end up losing people, though. You know?
Maybe. I think if they did Splash Mountain / Tiana's Bayou Adventure, they'd be fine. And then they would have to pick and choose maybe a little bit in Tomorrowland. But I think, like, because it sounds like you mostly did Haunted Mansion in, what's it called? Drawing a blank.
Liberty Square.
Liberty Square, yeah. Like, it sounds like Liberty Square was mostly just Haunted Mansion with, like, a little bit of stuff mixed in there. So I feel like they could do something like that with the other two lands, but I don't know. Jungle Cruise sounds awesome. I would love to go on a little backstage thing at Jungle Cruise.
Good. We'll make it happen. You don't have to tell me twice.
Gina, what about same question to you? Anything that you would change about it, or you're happy with $114 5-hour tour?
I'd say that I would be pretty happy with it. I feel like they did cover a lot, and I know, at least with the tour guide I had, when we were just walking from thing to thing, if there was aspects when she wasn't talking, like say at the end when you're walking down that road that they do use for overflow, she was just answering questions that we had. So we were asking her questions about Tinkerbell and how she flies, and she was answering those questions where, like, normally a cast member just says, "Oh, pixie dust." Like, she gave us the ins and outs of it. So, like, you do get, they're very honest when you ask questions. So I didn't feel when it was done, like, I felt very satisfied with what I got. Any question I had was answered. If I knew that it didn't have anything to do with it, I waited to see if I still had it at the end. And if I did and really wanted to know, I asked her. But I felt very satisfied by the end of that tour. I thought it gave so much information in such a short amount of time. What about you?
Yeah, real quick to your point about answering questions. I'm sure you got the same preface before your tour started, but that there are in-park questions and behind-the-scenes questions. And if your question is going to be something that may spoil it for little ones, that you wait to ask that questions until we're backstage, and she can consider that backstage questions, or on stage. So if it was, a simple question that wasn't going to spoil anything, you could ask that at any time. But if it was something about Tinkerbell, that would be appropriate backstage.
Yes. Which is, again, why you have to be 16 to be able to do the tour,
agree.
because there is so much that could ruin the magic for children. But that's it. Yeah, guys, you can find this on YouTube. And then if you want to find us on social media, Bruce on social media is at 407 Vacations. We are at Spill the D Podcast. And I believe that's it. So until next time, we will
See you at the castle.